All right, what's up? Peace to the family. I'm going to continue with the discussion of hemp and also go into the story. So I just dropped a video. It was basically an essay I wrote like 2013, a video I made 2015, just showing you the benefits of hemp and tying it into nation building. And the reason I dropped it right now is because of the fact that if you pay attention to what's going on in like finances and stuff like that, investing, which we'll get to in a minute, or just law, the House just passed a marijuana legalization bill, and we're going to get into what that means. So just to be clear, this also happened in 2020. So it's basically the House passed it, not the Senate. So it's not legal federally yet, meaning it's still illegal on a federal level, but states can decide for themselves if they want to legalize it, you know. And of course, the video I did before was about hemp, which is different than marijuana. But nevertheless, let's get into this story right here. So the Marijuana Opportunity Reinvestment and Expungement Act would remove cannabis from the Controlled Substance Act and expunge convictions of non-violent offenders. So that's big, because when they legalized marijuana on a state level, they didn't proactive or retroactively make that law affect those who are in jail for something that is now legal. So it looks like finally they're looking to clean that up, which is a good thing. So the House of Representatives on Wednesday passed legislation that would legalize marijuana on the federal level. The Marijuana Opportunity Reinvestment and Expungement, or MORE Act, which cleared the lower chamber by a vote of 220 to 204, removes cannabis from the Controlled Substance Act and requires courts to expunge convictions of nonviolent marijuana offenders. Its chances now, it still has to go by the Senate though, which would require all Democrats and 10 Republicans to pass here. So they're saying it's pretty slim that that's going to actually happen. Like I said, it passed the House 2 years ago as well, but it didn't pass the Senate. And I do agree that it's going to be a lot harder to pass the Senate, but there is a lot of money that can go into such an act that could actually help the economy. The problem is these politicians are paid by the industries that would be replaced by legalizing marijuana and hemp on a federal level. So there's that. So 3/4 of the U.S. states have legalized marijuana to some extent. The recreational market alone hits nearly 15 billion in 2021 and is on target to surpass 25 billion. So that's how much is adding to the economy so far. This is just with marijuana, just with being able to smoke marijuana and use marijuana products. Now, of course, if you paid attention to that video, I showed you how on an industrial level, it can add over $1 trillion easy, but that would also threaten the lumber industry, the current oil industry, steel industry, medical industry, et cetera, et cetera. And because those are controlled by families with generational wealth, they influence the politicians in a certain kind of way. That's why George Washington Carver's car never got legalized. Matter of fact, let me show you this just in case you didn't see that. Let me show you something. This is a car that was created, I want to say 1941. Hold on, let me find this. Here we go. By George Washington Carver for Henry Ford, but they was never able to.
Henry Ford's first Model T was built to run on hemp gasoline, and the car itself was constructed from hemp. On his large estate, Ford was photographed among his hemp fields. The car, grown from the soil, had hemp plastic panels whose impact strength was 10 times stronger than steel. Henry Ford ran 40,000 vehicles on hemp fuel from only 10,000 acres. The emissions are what you exhale, and the next year's crop reconverts it back into oxygen. That's a natural cycle fuel. We think that our ethanol and biofuels and flex fuel systems are all the cutting edge, but biofuel development, of course, is nothing new. Way back in the 1930s, Henry Ford was hard at work in the alternative fuel sector, and in 1941 he constructed a hemp-fueled and hemp-bodied prototype car. The plastic body panels were composed of 70% cellulose fibers, including industrial strength, mixed with a resin binder, and apparently they were pretty sturdy. A guy beats on the trunk with an axe and it fails to leave a mark. Industrial hemp won't make you high. It has no THC in it, but its association with marijuana has historically been a major legal stumbling block. There's some of you that think I'm full of shit, but the actual footage of 1941 should be proof enough for you.
Amongst the thousands of products made from hemp, one of the most extraordinary is Henry Ford's plastic car. Built in 1941, it contained cellulose fibers derived from hemp, sisal, and wheat straw. The plastic was lighter than steel, yet could withstand 10 times the impact without denting.
So some of that you can call cap because it was actually created by George Washington Carver. He actually created that car out of hemp. So let's get back to the story though. So here's the list of states that have legalized marijuana. We don't have to go through that, but it's 37 basically. Recreational level. What does the federal law say about marijuana? So this is interesting. And this is in part why that vehicle you just seen couldn't be mass produced, because the DuPonts, Rockefellers, and other large industry giants, what they did is they lobbied politicians to make marijuana illegal, because it used to be legal. Matter of fact, in the early days, it was mandatory that if you had a farm, you had to grow hemp because it was part of the industry of this nation. But, then in 1937, Marijuana Tax Act, whatever. So under the Controlled Substance Act of 1970, the Drug Enforcement Agency still classifies cannabis as a Schedule I drug with no current accepted medical use and a high potential for abuse in the likes of drugs like heroin and LSD and cocaine. Or actually, cocaine is Schedule II. They're saying there is medical use for cocaine. 2013, Barack Obama directed the Justice Department to defer the state authorities in jurisdictions that had legalized marijuana based on assurances that those states will impose an appropriate strict regulatory system. So that was a good look for the most part. Let's move this out of the way. So what is the Marijuana Opportunity and Reinvestment Expungement Act? Now, heading to the Senate, the MORE Act would abolish federal criminal penalties for those growing, possession, or distributing cannabis and expunge nonviolent cannabis convictions. It would also institute a tax on marijuana sales, with proceeds funding programs to help communities impacted by the war on drugs, which was basically more or less us disproportionately. It doesn't require states to legalize cannabis. However, regulations would be left up to state lawmakers. The bill initially passed the House December 2020. That's what I was telling you already. I reported on that, and I was sharing some of that information before because of some stocks in marijuana. The same, and I think more industries would be able to invest or would be able to utilize marijuana in different ways, and I'm not giving you advice. I'm just saying there's plenty of marijuana stocks out there that you can get. Some of them you can even get on Cash App. So the same thing may happen this time. Even if it does come up for a vote in the upper chamber, which is the Senate, it would need 10 Republicans and all Republicans to give their support. Excuse me, I should say all Democrats. It is unlikely to pass the Senate in its current form. Michael S. Lavery, a senior research analyst for financial services from Piper Sandler, told clients, according to Yahoo Finance. But there's a chance it could, if there's enough forward thinking, or if they change it a little bit to where, let's keep it real, some of these politicians feel like they could benefit more, right? So that's that. I'm gonna show you a couple. Hold on, let's see what else. Are there other marijuana legalization efforts in Congress? As more states legalize medical and recreational marijuana, more lawmakers want to square up federal laws so they don't conflict with state last week, the Senate and Marijuana Research Expansion Act, which would streamline the application process for researchers who want to study the medical value of cannabis and related products. That's pretty huge. And that would definitely be a conflict for the pharmaceutical companies currently, because they make a lot of money off of opium derivatives like morphine, perks, Vikes. 80% of pain pills come from opium, and so does heroin, for that matter. So we'll see how that goes. But now let's see. Let me show you a couple of these stocks. I know the Research Ninja, she has some stocks. I think she shared with me some of the stocks that she has. And this is not advice. It's not telling you, like, to get some stocks or whatnot. But I would personally think that there's a good chance that if it does pass the Senate, and at some point it probably will, I think investing in it could be beneficial, at least worth looking into. So here's some of the stocks. I have this one right here, Aurora Cannabis, which is down pretty significantly. Here's some of the other ones. Here is the total volume. I believe that's for 24 hours. So there's quite a lot of different companies that currently are developing marijuana for recreational uses or whatnot, or medical practices and research. And it only makes sense. Canopy, I also got that one too, Canopy. So it just makes sense that if it does pass on a federal level, that means they could do more with it. Instead of just marijuana, which is the flower, they can get into producing hemp for industrial reasons, which is pretty huge. I refer you again to the video that I just did before this one for some more information on that. Anyway, I just thought this was it's pretty significant news, because when it comes to the war on drugs, a lot of our people disproportionately suffered from marijuana laws before they got legal, and then they were never remedied when it was made legal. And then they pretty much made it to where it's impossible, or a lot more difficult, for people like us to own dispensaries. So, they took us off the block, put us in jail for something they now made legal, but now it's just mostly them that are benefiting from the fact that it's legal now. They didn't even remedy those who are in prison now for something that is legal now. So let's pay attention. Jay Dizzle, Natter Cat, subscribe, all that good stuff. Peace.